Hello, my name is Ryan Ismerlian and I'm the Conveying Product Engineer here at Novatec Incorporated. Today I'm here to talk to you about vacuum receivers, a very integral part of your vacuum conveying system. As you'll see behind me, we have two variants. One we call our VRX Series, which is our tried and true traditional vacuum receiver. And then the one right behind me is our VRX product line, which is our premium line of receiver. I'm going to go through the differences and similarities with these receivers, starting from the top down. With a standard vacuum receiver, normally you'll have a vacuum sequence valve that is located up in the rafters that's on a direct vacuum to the receiver. So you'll notice that on the VR, we just have a tube stub on this lid. That is where you're going to make that connection. With the VRX, it's a little different. Instead of having that station valve up in the rafters on the vacuum header, you'll just have a T-stub up there, dropping down with some flex hose to a lid-mounted station valve. This valve is now easily accessible at receiver level and can be maintenanced if required, where a station valve, you may need a scissor lift or some other means to get up there. From there, you'll see that we have a clamp ring securement system on these vacuum receivers. That allows you to secure it with one band clamp, have your filter in there, which also acts as a separation gasket, and to your receiver body. With the VRX, it's a little different. You'll see that we have some butterfly latches. This lid is actually secured to the body of the receiver via a hinge mechanism, so you don't actually have to physically remove the lid when changing or doing maintenance to your filter. You can actually undo the latches, flip it up and lock it, so you have hands-free maintenance to pull that filter, clean it, or reinstall it. So this is a clamped on assembly. It gets clamped onto the same receiver chamber. You'll see that they're both similar. Right now we're showing the same line size, same body volume. Once you get below that, we have the same band clamp assembly. It's used on both because we're actually using that just to clamp the body to the cone. Between that, we have a white neoprene gasket that seals that part of the chamber, so we have a guaranteed seal when we apply vacuum. But with this band clamp, it allows us to move that receiver body indifferent from the cone. And that allows us to orient this to your application. The same could be said about the lid on both units. Although, just looking at this one, you may not even have to rotate it. But there are options where there might be an elbow stub on it, where direction is key. But with the VRX, direction is always key, so you may have to rotate this to fit your need. But always have it accessible for your operator when they have to do maintenance. So now we'll go to the cones. You'll see here we have a fixed cone that's welded to a flange to a discharge chute and has a single point actuated flapper. This flapper can either be 2-inch, depending on the size of the body, or 5-inch for those larger receiver bodies, or in situations where you have hard to flow regrinds. You can actually fit a 5-inch discharge on the VR. Same can be said for the VRX. However, it's a different discharge style. Instead of a 2-inch for the smaller receiver line, you have a 3-inch as standard. This allows us to discharge material more readily than you would on a standard VR, but also gives you a lower profile design so you have more volume available underneath your receiver at your destination. So that could either be a surge bin, a Gaylord box, or even a drying hopper. One big thing you'll notice between the two is you got a demand switch here, a set of twist locks, so you wire that in. One thing with the VR is any option or accessory that requires a control voltage, you'll have to wire in individually. So you'll have to run it back to a remote junction box that leads back to your central control. With the VRX, we actually do that for you, but we add a few additional features. This junction box will tie any electrical option back to a single point. So you have one cable that you have to run back to an intermediate junction box just to run back, or directly to your controller. Depends on how far your equipment is from your controller. So on our junction box, which you may not receive in a field wiring situation, we include 2 pilot lights, One that indicates when the unit is in demand, so when the flapper is closed and the switch is calling for material, and one that indicates if the unit is loading. So if the unit is loading, it'll light up green. If it's in demand, it'll be yellow. So yellow for queue, green for go. You may have a question on how do we do maintenance? Do we have to go back to the controller to shut it down, the station, wait for it to finish its cycle, and then do the maintenance? Well, with a VR, you kind of have to. You don't have a local point to disable the demand on the unit. Well, here we have an on-off switch. This on-off switch will actually interrupt that demand signal to the controller. You allow the cycle to finish, you're able to do your maintenance right there without having to go back to the main controller to shut it down. When you're ready to turn this thing back on, it's a flip of a switch. We've gone through a lot of the similarities on the base unit. There are actually a number of options that you can apply to these units to make the receiver right for your application. Let's say there's a situation where you're running a dusty virgin pellet or a dusty regrind, and you have a filter in there that you don't want to be changing every couple hours because it's going to be saturating due to all that additional accumulation of dust. We offer an optional blowback pulse system for cleaning your filter. These blowback pulse systems are different between the two units, but both effectively clean the filter. With the VR, we utilize an external accumulator tank that pulses through a ball valve, allowing a nice flow of air to pressurize the area above the filter and push the dust out of the filter back into the material stream. Except for some of that may have passed the filter, since on vacuum receivers we have a 20 mesh standard. When you're looking at the VRX, we have a different style approach of an actual blowback that we call the MicroBurst. This actually utilizes an internal accumulator reservoir. It's a rubber hose that allows us to fill with compressed air. It expands so we can utilize the elasticity of the hose as well, but then has a poppet system instead of a ball valve to pulse the air and do a shock wave against your filter. That allows it to push that dust off with a single pulse. Although we always recommend additional pulses for extra clean filters. There are other options as well, depending on your application. Like I said, there's a plethora of them, which you can actually apply, and I'm just gonna name off a few. One is filterless, where you have a hard to reach receiver, where you may not be able to address that filter very readily. So you'd be able to use a filterless setup in that application. It's a body section that will actually fit on top of the receiver chamber in place of the filter, where we're able to use reverse cyclonic technology to pull air through without pulling the material through. That is primarily for pellets and clean regrind, not necessarily for powders or an extremely dusty regrind unless you want to clean out your central dust collection system. In addition to that, we have volume fill. We have different discharge options. So like on a receiver of this size that has a 2-inch standard, we can increase that to 5-inch. The other options are that we can include a positive shutoff in the form of a knife gate. We also have alternative demand applications. So instead of being directly at the flapper, you can have a remote capacitance switch or photo eyes when you're in a machine mount application, where we offer a machine mount glass surge hopper for your filling needs. Now that's just a few of the options that are available. If you would like to learn more, feel free to go to our website at www.novatec.com or reach out to one of our sales representatives to have your questions answered. Thank you for watching.